Georgetown, Washington, D.C. A blue mailbox on the corner of 37th and R Streets. To the 10,000 people who walk past it every week, it is a mailbox. To one man, it is a switch. A single horizontal chalk line on its side means the package is in place. Come and get it. For 9 years, the man who drew that line ran the CIA's Soviet counterintelligence desk. His job was to catch Russian spies inside the agency. He was the Russian spy inside the agency. This is Dead Drop. Every file here begins with a signal. This one began with chalk. His name was Aldrich Ames. Born in 1941 in River Falls, Wisconsin. His father worked for the CIA, and the son followed him in, first as a summer clerk, then at 21 as a full-time employee. By 1967, he was in the Career Trainee Program, the agency's path to becoming a case officer. He was not good at it. His first overseas posting was Ankara, Turkey, in 1969. 3 years. He recruited no one. His evaluations said he was better suited to a desk. In 1976, in New York, he left a briefcase full of classified documents on a subway train. It was recovered. He kept his clearance. He drank. Colleagues remembered it. Supervisors wrote it down. Nothing happened. The agency of that era promoted people who did not cause trouble, and Aldrich Ames, quiet, bookish, fluent in Russian, did not cause trouble. In Mexico City in the early 1980s, the drinking got worse and his marriage fell apart. He also met a Colombian cultural attaché named Rosario Casas Dupuy. She was on the CIA's payroll as an informant. He fell in love with her. The divorce cost him tens of thousands of dollars he did not have. And then, in September 1983, the CIA gave him a promotion. Chief of the Soviet counterintelligence branch. The man with the debts, the drinking, and the lost briefcase now had access to the identity of nearly every Soviet citizen secretly working for the United States. April 16, 1985. Ames had a lunch scheduled with a Soviet diplomat named Sergei Chuvakhin at the Mayflower Hotel. It was an approved contact. The CIA and FBI knew about it. The idea was that Ames might, over time, develop Chuvakhin as a source. Chuvakhin never showed up. So Ames walked, a few blocks, to the Soviet embassy on 16th Street. He went in, and he handed the man at the desk an envelope addressed to the KGB station chief Stanislav Androsov. Inside the envelope, the names of 2 or 3 Soviets who had approached the CIA. Ames believed they were KGB plants, so in his mind, he was giving away nothing. A page from an internal CIA directory with his own name marked. And a request. $50,000. A month later, Chuvakhin handed him the money. Ames paid his debts. He could have stopped there. June 13, 1985. A restaurant called Chadwicks under the freeway in Georgetown. Ames met Chuvakhin for lunch and handed him several plastic bags. Inside was somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds of paper. Cable traffic, case files, the identity of essentially every Soviet source the CIA and FBI were running. He would later explain his reasoning. Any one of those men might eventually learn that the KGB had a mole inside the CIA. Any one of them could betray him. So he betrayed all of them first. Over the next 9 years, the Soviet Union, and then Russia, would pay Aldrich Ames about $2.5 million, with roughly $2 million more set aside for him in Moscow. Around $4.5 million in total. At the time, the highest price ever paid for an American spy. In Moscow, they moved fast. Too fast. That autumn, Soviet officers who had been working for the Americans began to disappear. Some were recalled home on routine business and never came back to their posts. Some were arrested at their desks. Valery Martinov was a KGB officer at the Washington Embassy and a source for the FBI. In November 1985, he was given an honor. He would be part of the escort taking a returning KGB defector, Vitaly Yurchenko, home to Moscow. Martinov boarded the plane. When it landed, he was arrested. He was executed in 1987. Sergei Motorin, another KGB officer from the Washington station and another FBI source, was executed the same year. Dmitry Polyakov was a general in Soviet military intelligence. He had spied for the United States for more than 20 years for reasons of conscience and had refused most of the money he was offered. He was retired when the KGB came for him, executed in 1988. At least 10 men were executed because of the paper in those plastic bags. More than 100 operations were compromised. In Langley, the losses were impossible to miss. Almost every Soviet case the agency had went dark within a year. The CIA set up a small task force to find out why. It would take them nearly 9 years. Part of the reason was Moscow. The KGB knew the roll-up had been so fast it might expose their source, so they fed the Americans false leads, hints that the losses came from broken communications, from a different traitor, from anything but a mole. Part of the reason was the agency itself. Ames took a polygraph in 1986. He passed. He took another in 1991. He passed again. The KGB's advice had been simple: get a good night's sleep and be friendly with the examiner. From 1986 to 1989, Ames was posted to Rome. He met his KGB handler in the city. He kept passing documents. He kept drinking. When he came home to Washington, he bought a house in Arlington, Virginia. $540,000. He paid cash. He bought a Jaguar. His wife's phone bills to Columbia ran to thousands of dollars a month. The credit cards eventually showed close to $500,000 in spending. His CIA salary was around $70,000 a year. When people asked, he had an answer. His wife came from a wealthy Colombian family. It was a good enough answer for almost everyone. But one colleague had known Rosario in Mexico City. She knew the family. They were comfortable. They were not rich. She said so. And in 1992, an analyst on the task force did something no one had thought to do. He took the dates of Ames's approved lunches with Chuvakin in 1985 and 1986 and laid them next to Ames's bank records. After each lunch, within days, a large cash deposit. In May 1993, the FBI opened a formal investigation. Codename NIGHTMOVER. They tapped his phones. They put a tracking beacon on the Jaguar. And one night in September, agents quietly drove up to his house, took his trash can, and left an identical one in its place. In the garbage, they found a torn, yellow note. It referred to a meeting in Bogotá on the 1st of October. In October, while the family was away, the FBI entered the house. On Ames's computer, they found his messages to the KGB, instructions for dead drops, signal sites, a schedule. And the FBI learned the meaning of a blue mailbox on the corner of 37th and R. A chalk mark appeared on it. Agents photographed it. They watched Ames drive slowly past the corner, look at the mailbox, and drive on. The signal had been read. They wanted to catch him with the Russians. They could not wait. Ames was scheduled to fly to Moscow on agency business on February 22, 1994. The FBI did not believe he would come back. Monday, February 21, 1994. A federal holiday. Ames received a call asking him to come into headquarters. He got into the Jaguar. 2 blocks from his house, unmarked cars boxed him in. Agents pulled him from the car and put him on the ground. Rosario was arrested inside the house. 9 years, 10 dead men, $4.5 million. On April 28, 1994, Aldrich Ames pleaded guilty to espionage and tax evasion. Life in prison, no parole. Rosario received 5 years. In court, he said he felt shame. He also said the spy wars had been a sideshow and that he had not really damaged his country. Investigators counted the graves and disagreed. The CIA changed after Ames. Financial disclosure rules, tighter polygraphs, a joint counterintelligence center with the FBI. All of it built on a simple, humiliating lesson. The man they were looking for had been sitting in the meetings about the search. Aldrich Ames died on January 5, 2026, in a federal prison in Cumberland, Maryland. He was 84. He had served 32 years of a sentence that was never going to end. The corner of 37th and R is unremarkable. That was always the point. This was dead drop. File number 1. The next drop is already loaded. In 1955, the CIA and MI6 dug a tunnel under East Berlin to tap the Soviet Army's phone lines. It was the most expensive intelligence operation of its time. The KGB knew about it before the first shovel went into the ground. Check the mailbox.